Hey guys, it's Austin here with another top 5, and today we're doing top 5 reasons the PS Vita failed. Before we get into this video, be sure to check out my other top 5s, top 5 canceled PS Vita games, and top 5 games that need to be on PS Vita. With that being said, let's just get right into the video with our number 5 spot, memory cards. These memory cards, man, are so expensive. 32 gigabyte memory card probably costs around $80 to $100, which could be upwards of half the price of PS Vita itself if you buy it pre-owned, and it's only sold in game retailers, so it's not like you can go up to a Radio Shack and buy a PS Vita memory card. Nope, you got to go to GameStop, Best Buy, EB Games, really anything that has a large selection of games, they may have them. And when they do have them, they only have a few in stock, so it's a scavenger hunt to find one. And they're only used for Vita. It's not like you can do with the 3DS with the SD cards where you can have multiple uses for it. So if you shell out like $50 for an SD card, it could go in your 3DS, take it out, and put it in your camera. Nope, $50, that's going to have about 3 games for your Vita, and that's it. For our number 4 spot, we have poor marketing. Now, let's all just go back to the fall of 2012. How many commercials have you seen of the PS Vita? Probably none. And if you have seen one, it was probably the Assassin's Creed 3 PS Vita commercial with the white PS Vita. Other than that, I haven't seen a commercial ever in my life. That's the only one I've ever seen. And it's not even mentioned in press conferences back then, and it still to this day isn't. So it kind of questions, like, why would Sony not market the Vita properly when the problem with the PSP was weird marketing? The problem with the Vita? No marketing. Game trailers weren't even on TV. Normally, a new game comes out, so they want to advertise it and say, oh, look, this is coming out for our new portable system. Doesn't it look beautiful? This is great. Like, if they had a Killzone commercial or an Uncharted commercial on TV, that probably would have helped the Vita out a lot. But there wasn't one game trailer on live TV. And yes, ad is expensive to buy to get put into a show runtime, but they probably would have saved a lot more money if they just did that, because they would have easily made it back from the sales of the Vita that could have came from that. For our number 3 spot, we have lack of first and third party games, or AAA games. The only COD game we have was on the launch, I believe, or a month or two after launch, and let's just say it was disappointing. And after that, we never got another Call of Duty game. We haven't even had any AAA games since 2015, I believe, and that was Resident Evil Revelations 2. And even that game was a little disappointing. The graphics and audio was just a little not as good as it should have been. And I did a whole review on that video, so you can check that out if you want, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And all the exclusives the Vita did have, like for its first 2 years with the strong releases it got, they were all later released on better, more powerful systems, like Assassin's Creed 3, which is one of the biggest system sellers the Vita had at the time. That's the one game they actually advertised. That game just got taken away, put on the Xbox 360 and put on the PS3. And after that, they saw a drop in Vita sales. Gravity Rush, a huge, huge system seller in Japan, the Asian markets, still is because the Vita does great over there. But it even did great over here in the West, North America. But they took Gravity Rush, remastered it, put it on PS4, and put Gravity Rush 2 on there, and the Vita hasn't been selling as good ever since. We never got another first-person shooter. We never got big GTA games or a big racing game or a big fighting game. We got Mortal Kombat 9 and Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which was a little disappointed. But Mortal Kombat 9 wasn't even as good as we expected it to be either. We never really had the support from the outside developers, let alone the exclusive developers. It never had a Jak and Daxter or a God of War. It just had the remastered versions of those games. And really, the only good exclusive it still has to this day is like Freedom Wars and Killzone. And if you want to get technical, you can just play the other Killzones on PS3 and PS4 and probably have a better time. So I think that's definitely a big reason why the PS Vita is now considered a fail. But our number 2 spot is the lack of support Sony gave it overall. Like I said, there was no marketing. There wasn't any first or third party games after 2015. The updates for the system were greatly spaced out. I mean, like 3-4 months apart, and there would be an update. They never advertised the Vita itself. They never advertised any games. They canceled games in fear of overstocking the shelves at launch, which we all know was the exact opposite of what happened. The Vita had a difficult, bumpy launch because they didn't have those games that were like, hey, buy me, I'm a great game, and I'm only on Vita. Those games ended up coming out later, and by then it was already too late. The damage was done, and Sony couldn't do a damn thing about it. But that's another thing. After the damage was done, Sony didn't even try and do anything about it. They just cut their losses, kept releasing games here and there, see if it would work. Didn't, so they just went on and ran. They just went to the PS4 and never came back. Our number one reason the Vita failed. Now listen, okay, you guys are going to think this sounds really stupid, but trust me, I'm going to explain this, and you guys are going to understand it, and you guys are going to think I'm a genius, okay? It was too powerful. It was too good of a portable system. Sony didn't know what you wanted. They didn't know if you wanted console games on the go or if you wanted games on the go, like the way the DS does it, pick up and play games. So they had a mixture of all, and that really helped the Vita. But the Vita was so powerful. It had such a bumpy launch. Devs didn't want to take the risk to develop a really expensive game and not know if they were even going to break even with their budget for the game. And when that happens, that's when developers stop making games in fear of losing money and maybe going out of business, like Nihilistic did. They looked at Nihilistic. They made 2 games for Vita, 2 exclusives, big budget games. They both failed, and the whole system ended up hating that developer. They ended up going under and losing their jobs. So developers ended up getting scared of making big, giant budget games on Vita. And for the ones that didn't want to make the big games, they just wanted to make smaller indie games, pick up and play, they were scared of the people still making big games. Because when you have people making Killzone Mercenary, Uncharted Golden Abyss, Freedom Wars, kind of setting the standard at, if your game's not great, if it doesn't look good, you're not going to sell anything. Which is not the case, but that's what it turned out to be later on. People didn't want to release these pick up and go games that were real cheaply made because the Vita owners were kind of spoiled with what they did get from Killzone and Uncharted. They would say, why would I buy that? That looks like a shitty indie. I'm just going to go play my beautiful Killzone Mercenary. So devs ended up losing money on both sides and stopped developing these giant games. Boom. Do you guys understand that? I could go farther, but we're just going to talk about the 3DS part of that, on why the 3DS was better in this case, because I feel like that'll help you guys out a little more, because the 3DS had the pick up and go games. They had it targeted towards an age group, what the Vita did not have. It was kind of all over the place, so it was a little more organized. And the 3DS never had these giant, like, it's PS3 graphics. There was never a competition of how good it looks. It was just how good of a game it was. With the Vita, it kind of turned into how good does it look? Okay, I'll buy it. Oh, this game sucks. Or, oh, this game is great, and it looks good. 3DS, it's more acceptable if it doesn't look good. You look at Black Ops Declassified compared to Killzone Mercenary, you say, oh, that game looks like shit. Put Declassified on the 3DS, you say, oh my god. Someone put a PS4 Pro in my 3DS. This is amazing. How is this running? Because 3DS does not have the high quality games. They have the cheap games that are good, and you buy them, you put them down, and then you buy another one. That is why the PS Vita failed and why the 3DS kicked its ass. I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and peace out.